Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of The Game Plan. I am your host, Matty Kiwoom. Boy, does it feel good. I mean, you could feel it. It's the tingles are getting there. The football is 2 weeks away. Yesterday, we had a little taste, a little appetizer of actual competitive football. Was it FSU took on Georgia Tech in Ireland? Sorry for all the Seminole fans out there today. It was not a good one. DJU, you know, he just ain't the guy. He ain't the guy. Sorry. But the first loss of the year stinks. But anyway, for the rest of us, it's nice to see real football. And knowing that the NFL is just 2 weeks away how can it not get you excited? My camera is just all messed up today. There we go. I think I fixed it. Fizz in the chat. Shout out Fizz. I'm still drinking ginger ale over that game. I feel you. I even had some ginger ale yesterday. Dynasty Berry, what's good? Dustin's in the chat. I appreciate you guys so much tuning in on Sunday mornings like this to come rock with the game plan. It's awesome. It's awesome to have you guys in here. Fizz again. Brush your teeth before you comment in the chat for it. Yes. That's a great bit of advice. Brush them damn chiclets before you get in. France, shout out. Church time. Let's go. I love hearing that. I mean, listen, you guys hanging out here every Sunday. It's awesome. And like I said, 2 weeks from now, the game plan will kick off South Harmon's incredible Sunday fun day coverage. The game plan will get us started, and then we'll kick it over to Eric and a number of other hosts that'll be joining for Start Sit. We're going to get those lineups right. We're going to get them tight, ready to rock and get you those dubs. It's only 2 weeks away. Very, very, very excited. There's a lot of drafts happening. Next week is the draft bonanza. It's the full-on seasonal bonanza of drafts. So we're talking rankings today. Of course, got some news and notes from around the NFL. Sunday, again, the game plan is your last stop before next week, before you're getting ready. So I want to get it through all the news and notes as well. But before I do, make sure to absolutely smash that like button and make sure that you're subscribed to the South Harmon Fantasy Football YouTube channel. Get it going. Let's get those numbers up. We got a lot in the works. We cooking over there at South Harmon. So you definitely going to want to make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, hit that notification button, get that bell on so you don't miss a dang episode. And again, hit that like button and leave a comment if you like. If you want to leave some comments, I want to know. Also, over at South Harmon, we are running a flash sale, warp, team reviews, shit sheets, all this stuff here is all on sale right now. We're going to be doing it for maybe about another, I think, a week or so. I think it's till the season kicks off. Kiwoom, get your shite together. Sorry, it's Sunday morning. But anyway, you get all this stuff here on sale at SouthHarmonFF.com, or go find South Harmon FF on X, and there's a link there too. You can hit the shop, get all that stuff. You said shit sheets. What's a shit sheet, Kiwoom? Well, the shit sheets are game plan. They are helping you with your game plan. What they are is a top 200. We have one QB, we have Superflex. The players are obviously listed there, and then those little boxes, if you keep it on your tablet, keep it on your laptop or your phone, you can check the boxes. If you have to print it, you can go ahead and scratch them off like a traditional cheat sheet. What is not shown here, and something that you do get if you purchase the shit sheets, is the 2023 warp for 1 QB seasonal drafts also. So you can get a little barometer of how they performed, what was their wins over replacement in 2023. You'll get that snapshot if you get the shit sheets today, $4.99. And also, not only do you get them now, you get the updates. Right now, we're on 2.0 of the shit sheets. 3.0 will drop at the end of next week, right before the frenzy ensues. So if you get it today, you'll have it for drafts during the week. And then for your big ones next weekend, you'll have that 3.0 hot off the presses. All right, let's get into today's headlines. Jahan Dotson traded to the Eagles from the Washington Commanders for a third. This absolutely destroys his fantasy value, becomes undraftable in seasonal formats, but I do like the fit for the Philadelphia Eagles. The reports coming from camp so far for the Eagles has been very Devontae Smith in the slot heavy. They're going to put the Slim Reaper in the slot a ton in this Kellen Moore offense, which would be great for Smith. And now Jahan gives them a bit of a dynamic outside playmaker. I mean, he hasn't been good, but apparently he wasn't a great run blocker, and he didn't fit this new coaching regime. But we did see him go up and get it a few times. 7 touchdowns as a rookie in limited play. Again, not fantasy worthy, but for the Eagles, I think this is a great fit. They have been going through this rotating door of wide receiver threes. They brought in Devontae Parker. They drafted Johnny Wilson. They had Julio Jones there. They've been trying to figure out some outside or inside receiver to kind of make this thing go. And with Kellen Moore, he saw an opportunity to bring in a former first-round pick, Jahan Dotson, and brought him in. And I think this could be good for the Eagles. I think it's great for A.J. Brown and for Devontae Smith. It just gives more playmakers to worry about out there on the field so that the targets can be consolidated to those two players. That's what we saw last year. We've seen that in the Kellen Moore offenses in the past. So I do believe that will be the case this year. But Dotson go to the Eagles, I think it was a great move for the Eagles. Great move for the Eagles. Gardner Minshew was named week 1 starter. I mean, that's kind of what we all were thinking. That's what we're all kind of hoping. But again, now we're not looking at ceiling plays for this offense. We're looking at one guy being able to be a volume monster. We saw Gardner Minshew make Michael Pittman very good for fantasy purposes last year. Will that be Devontae Adams? Will it be a mixture of Adams and Bowers or Bowers and Myers? I don't know how it's going to play out. But I as a fantasy team builder, I got to say the Gardner Minshew was a bit of a sigh of relief. Less unknowns. And I want less unknowns. I want more, truly fixed variables going into my drafts. I want to know what's going on. I took a sip of my morning coffee. All right, let's keep it going. Bo Nix was also named the starter of the Denver Broncos. Listen, 12th overall pick, 6th quarterback off the board. It was an unprecedented NFL draft last year, but Bo Nix has played well. He's a perfect fit for Sean Payton. This was a true match made in heaven in terms of quarterback and coach. His weaponry isn't going to be significantly it's not going to make a significant difference to his production. Cortland Sutton being the wide receiver 1. We haven't seen anything of Marvin Mims taking that next step. Troy Franklin's fallen into obscurity. It's Josh Reynolds. It's Tim Patrick, the accountant, and it's Cortland Sutton. Bo Nix is probably not one QB viable, but in super flex formats, I would love to grab him as my QB2, definitely QB3 in my best ball leagues for seasonal stuff. So Bo Nix named the starter. And overall, that's good if you do want to get a late round Cortland Sutton. Bo Nix has obviously shown the ability to be accurate, throw with anticipation, and put the ball in places where Cortland Sutton can make plays. We saw Cortland Sutton have a whole bunch of touchdowns last year. I think that we'll see potential volume go up, but the touchdowns is obviously tough to repeat. But I'm happy for Bo Nix. I'm happy for this offense. I think it's good for us fantasies, good for us fantasy players as we kind of look from the outside and see how it plays out. Deshaun Watson, listen, people are excited about Deshaun. I'm nervous. I'm nervous as hell about Deshaun, and more so, I'm getting more nervous about Deshaun and how he affects my guy, Amari Cooper. He did return to practice. He missed Wednesday's practice with general arm soreness. He did not play in the preseason. I just hope he can get up to speed. The hope is that Deshaun Watson can not only get back to the field, not only get back to where he will truly help the Cleveland Browns and our fantasy teams, but feel comfortable early on, so that as the season kind of kicks off, we're not working from a deficit if we waited for Deshaun and Superflex, or if we have Amari Cooper or Jerome Ford, another player that I like from the backfield. Like, how does this offense operate with Deshaun? So I need Deshaun. I need you to come back. I need you to show us a little bit of continuity in your return and with that shoulder, because, of course, shoulder injuries are nothing to mess around with. Another injury that happened last weekend that is still in effect as we head into our big draft weekend next weekend is Jaylen Warren's hamstring injury. But Mike Tomlin did come out and say it's not a long-term concern. Where he had been going in drafts, it seems like a slight dip from 2.0 or 1.0 to 2.0 in the shit sheet. He did slip quite a bit, maybe like a handful of spots, 6 or 7 spots. But again, I'm a big Najee believer. So I have yet to really have, Jaylen Warren kind of get to the heights that some have him. So I didn't really move him down much. There wasn't a lot of room to move him down from. But in one of my leagues, I do have him on my roster. I'm not panicking just yet. I'm going to keep it because it seems like he's trending in the right direction. Joe Mixon looks to being back to full health. Joe Mixon last night we did the Beat South Harmon Fantasy Football League on Full-Time Fantasy. Shout out Mike and Adam and Fizz was in that draft, and Eric was in that draft, and the Doc I think was in that draft, and T-Rock was in that draft. The boys were out drafting last night, and I got Joe Mixon quite late. Joe Mixon fell, and I picked it up, and I actually did come away with a team that I liked, and because Joe Mixon if he's looking like he's gonna be healthy. I mean, is Cam Akers really going to push him away? Damian Pierce certainly ain't. Damian Priest has a better shot of pushing Joe Mixon out of the way. Damian Pierce ain't pushing nobody out of the way. So it looks like Joe Mixon's backfield in an offense that we like. Seems to be high-powered. He's going to have a lot of goal line opportunities. We've seen Dynasty Barry shot. DB was in there too. Shoot, I did not name everybody. Don't get me. It's early, but yes, DB was in there. Dynasty Barry was in that draft, and he had a pretty good draft too. I will say that you had a good draft. You had a good draft, DB. Tyreek Hill is expected to be ready for Week 1, despite wearing a brace for that thumb. Just throw it away, guys. I mean, listen, DB. Listen, I'm glad you're here, but you're gonna frazzle the cage at 9:12 a.m. on a Sunday. This is why you're my boy. This is why you're my boy, DB. Keep me on my toes. This is why I love you. Tyreek Hill is going to be back, though. So you're drafting him at the top of round 1. You're very, very excited to have him. But come on, guys. These NFL players, what do you wear these braces for? Getting us all scared. Don't do this to us. Don't do it to us. Deontay Johnson seems to be racking up a shitload of injuries this offseason. He already dealt with a minor groin ailment, and now he was seen limping off the field last week with a foot or ankle issue. Now, don't get me wrong. Deontay Johnson is the king of hobbling around looking like he just got shot in the shin to then catching 2 touchdowns, to then catching a deep ball, to then coming back and performing. So you have to take these kind of smaller injuries, these nagging injuries for Deontay Johnson with a grain of salt. But it is worth monitoring this week. As long as he can get back to the field, then we're going to keep him exactly where he is on the shit sheets and go ahead and get those dang shit sheets here for your draft. A couple more things. Deron Bland will be out 6 to 8 weeks for the Dallas Cowboys. Now you might be saying to yourself, what are you talking about IDP? This isn't an IDP take. I'm not good at those formats. But what I will say is, if you're in the dinosaur leagues, the defense, special teams, kicker leagues, the Cowboys are maybe a little less exciting to draft. I mean, Deron Bland was an absolute beast in terms of scoring fantasy points for DSTs and then for himself, obviously, in the IDP basis. And it also does help the overall potential output of the Dallas Cowboy offense. I mean, last year, he turned the ball over, scored touchdowns, put him in better position to score. If they are not as good of a defensive unit, maybe there's more points scored. It's not a big deal. It's not shaking any rankings. It's just, I thought it was newsworthy because last year Deron Bland was a game changer that did affect our fantasy matchups. And this year it's going to be looking like he's going to miss a month or so as he gets back from foot surgery. So it was worth bringing up. Ricky Pearsall is a no-go for me. He has fallen in shit sheet 2.0. He will fall even further in 3.0. I don't believe he's draftable in seasonal formats. He's still trying to come back from that shoulder injury. Brandon Ayuk hasn't been traded yet. The stars are not aligning for Ricky Pearsall to be effective early in 2024. So why draft him? You can use some fab, maybe buy on the low. We'll talk about that as the weeks will come. But Ricky Pearsall is not a draft right now. You cannot draft him even if you are excited about him in this offense. He's undraftable. And the last bit of news is a selfish one, but hey, guess what? It's the game plan with Matty Kiwoom. Dylan Lobb, my guy from the Las Vegas Raiders, he projects to make the 53-man roster. And all I got to say is, duh, of Alexander Mattison, Zamir White, and him. He gives you the best chance in the passing game. His ability to make plays as a pass catcher from the running back position is like none other on this roster. I'm happy to see him make the team. He will be in my home leagues, the casual leagues, he'll be a last round pick in every single one of them. In the more competitive, kind of little sharper drafts, Potentially take him within the last 3 so rounds for Dylan Law, but there's a path in which he's a fab destroyer, right? And in seasonal formats, we kind of forget about that aspect of winning in seasonal formats is being able to get players with your free agent budget to get these guys. So why even risk it with Dylan Law? Just add him late, stash him. You can drop him later. It'll be of no consequence to drop later. But if Zamir White gets hurt in week 1, Dylan Law is going to go through the roof because it's only a matter of time until he can get the between the tackle stuff, the outside stuff. I mean, this is a guy that at the Senior Bowl last year ran over 21 miles per hour multiple times in multiple practices. This guy's he's not Rex Burkhead. Okay, he has more juice than Rex Burkhead. Just because he is a white guy who has male pattern baldness does not make him Rex Burkhead. He's a lot more electric than Rex Burkhead, and that's why I think he's a must draft late. Okay, because at the end of the day, you don't want to burn all that fab early, and he's one of those guys that put him on a roster. You don't have to burn that fab, and if you drop him, it's okay. But that's it. That's for the news and notes. Wrapped up. Now we're going to talk about 3 players that I am higher on than consensus that you can find in those shit sheets 2.0, and 3 players that I am lower on than consensus. But before we do that, we got to talk about. I talked earlier at the show about keeping it right, keeping it tight, keep it. Making sure that you are not just. You're just not meant. You got to be mentally right, obviously, for your drafts, but you got to keep it tight for the rest of your life. And Manscaped can help you do that. Manscaped's got all the tools, lawnmowers, weed whackers. They have all the tools to make sure that you are, you're just dialed in, keeping it right, keeping it tight. And for here at South Harmon, if you use the promo code SHFF20, you'll get 20% off and free shipping of South Harmon. Sorry, I got distracted. All of a sudden, my phone started ringing. I'm like I got such a short attention span. It just pulls me in every which directions. But yeah, Manscaped, if you want to head over to manscaped.com, use the promo code SHFF20, get 20% off and free shipping, and you can thank us here at South Harmon for keeping it right, keeping it tight. All right, let's dive right on in, shall we? Everyone's in the chat, ready to rock and roll. The first player that I am higher on than consensus is Jerome Ford. ECR expert consensus rankings posts him at 118. I have him at 99, so it's a difference of 19 draft selections. Last year, he scored 9 total touchdowns in this offense. So the guy was able to find pay dirt all the time in terms of the limited set. Well, he played pretty much all the games. It's not like that limited. But 9 touchdowns, hovering around 10 total touchdowns, exactly what we're looking for in fantasy. He finished as running back 16 overall last year. And he's being drafted at running back 40. So you were getting a tremendous discount in drafts. Over the last 3 seasons, the Cleveland Browns have one of their running backs has finished inside the top 12 on an average basis. So this is always a very good offense for running backs. Cleveland did not invest in the running back position at all. I mean, they brought in Deontay Foreman. He's supposedly going to play the short yardage stuff, and it's been in the stars. It's been on the wall here. We've had the inklings that Nick Chubb was not going to be ready. There was not a guarantee that he came to he was able to play in week 1. It seems like he's going to miss potentially the first couple weeks, if not month of the season, which is just going to mean that the Browns were just very confident in the abilities of Jerome Ford to be their primary running back after doing a great job last year. Nick Chubb obviously still rehabbing from that horrible knee injury that he suffered in week 2 last year. So that's his second devastating knee injury to the other knee. And he's also 27 years old. It seems as if Jerome Ford his value is being dragged down by a player that I don't think is a guarantee to drag it down at the point this season. And last year with Jerome Ford playing well, he had a 50% opportunity share. So if that number goes up, call it 10, 12%, it's going to provide volume that's going to, push Jerome Ford into the top 12, top 10 potentially on a points per game basis. There's a lot of room for him to grow, and if he ends up sitting around that 50%, well, we saw what he could do in this offense at 50% opportunity share, which again, at that running back 40 price, it seems like a no-brainer. In rankings wise, it was hard for me to take a running back that has a path to a lot of playing time that performed last year on a top 20 basis and keep him outside my top 100. I could not do that. So that's the big difference there. I mean, Chubb will return obviously at some point. But this offense, will operate a lot better. It will operate a little bit more efficiently with a younger, sprier Jerome Ford. And I think that the coaches will come to realize that. Last year, Jerome Ford had a 0.94 wins over replacement, so just around a 1 win over replacement. This year, with the volume increase, you could see him push, over the 1.00 win over replacement, be a 1.1, potentially 1.2 type running back. So I love Jerome Ford this year. The next player that I'm going to talk about is someone that I'm lower on than consensus, and this is actually more of a meta take than it is just a take for this individual player, but Dallas Goedert. I mean, when I was doing research for the show, I noticed he was way different. I'll go through the ranks here. ECR, I'm at 104. I have him at 134. So I'm 30 spots lower than Dallas Goedert, than consensus. And I was looking at his stats and I'm looking at the situation. I'm saying, why are you so low on Goedert? I mean, he's not really being drafted all that high. He's like being drafted as a tight end 13, but why? And then I thought of it. This is Koopa's fault. It's Koopa's fault. And in seasonal leagues, our 1 QB, TEP, no TEP, the guys like Dallas Goedert just doesn't have any value. There's really nothing wrong with DG. Dallas Goedert's a good player. He's just a tight end. He's not only just a tight end, he's a tight end that's in the thick of the tight end mud. There's nothing that differentiates him, nothing that pulls him out of the mud. And like I said, in terms of team leagues that have no tight end premium, he was really only as valuable last year as someone like Tyler Boyd. 0.57 warp. Doesn't seem like someone you should be overly drafting. Certainly not someone you should be targeting around pick 100. Last year, Tyler Boyd, wide receiver 49, to Dallas Goedert's tight end 13. That shows how little value these type of tight ends have in your non-tight end premium leagues. And if he falls, fine. You can take him. Again, he's fine. He's meh. But for me, why take a meh pick around 100? I am at 134, where I feel a little bit more comfortable. But even at that, I mean, you have like Tyler Conklins. They're going in rounds, the 170s. And they're meh. So why not wait? Or if you want to wait just a couple of rounds later, and you could take guys like Luke Musgrave or Pat Freiermuth, guys that have more upside. So it's not a knock on Dallas Goedert per se, the player. But it just feels like he's in the middle of the mud. And for my rankings and for our shit sheets that you can get over at southharmonff.com, most tight ends are depressed. This is the quintessential depression at tight end, the Dallas Goedert type, the good, not great, meh, in the mud. Wait for that. He's just very replaceable in fantasy. He's, like I said, good in real life, very replaceable in fantasy. So there's no need to take him around pick 100. He is also dealing with an oblique injury. That doesn't help at all. Obliques are not good in football. You get tackled in your obliques. And they just acquired Jahan Dotson. So, doesn't matter how you feel about Dotson. The fact that there's now another pass catcher is just, another reason that I'm just continuously fading Dallas Goedert. So I am much lower on consensus on DG. The next player that I'm higher on the consensus is Jaden Reed. I love Jaden Reed this year. I am all about Jaden Reed this year. ECR has him at 79. I have him at 47. So 32 picks higher. And for me, Jaden Reed produced as a rookie. I almost said freshman. He produced as a rookie, and he wasn't necessarily a volume play. He showed tremendous efficiencies. And I see this player, and I recognize the prospect profile, and I understand that with more volume, the efficiencies will obviously come down. That's just the nature of the two statistics, but when it's not going to crash, which means he could exceed where he's being drafted. Last year, he was wide receiver 25. This year's being drafted at wide receiver 34. There's a bit of discrepancy there for me. And last year, he was a top 25 wide receiver, not only in points per game for fantasy, but in wins over replacement. He was a 1.10 win over replacement player. And last year, like I said, top 20 performer in fantasy, not a whole lot of volume. He had 94 targets, so was 40th in the NFL. He had a 17.6 target share, 49th in the NFL. But he also had those efficiency numbers that really popped, like 2.31 fantasy points per target. That was the 5th best, and 0.56 fantasy points per route run, which was 8th best in the NFL. So when he got the ball, he did a lot with it. He's a dynamic player. He's absolutely dynamite with the ball in his hands. Last year, he had 119 rushing yards, believe it or not, and 10.8 yards per carry. That was the best number amongst all non-running backs. So he had more yards per carry than, CeeDee Lamb, who had surprising amount of rushing yards last year, or even Deebo Samuel. He's that type of player in this offense, and we have Deebo ranked a lot higher. And I think that, actually I know so that Jaden Wright deserves similar treatment as he heads into year 2. As a rusher last year, he had 6 breakaway runs. Those are runs over 15 yards or more in 11 attempts. So again, his explosion, his efficiency is there. The volume needs to kick in. He also added the 2 rushing touchdowns last year. So this type of usage is tremendous. His type of efficiencies are dynamic. Now, if the volume comes up, which it should, as he gets into year 2 of an emerging offense, this guy could now eclipse top 20, top 18. He could push in that range for wide receiver. So if you're getting that bit of a discount right here at wide receiver 34, you follow the shit sheets, you're going to have a lot of Jaden Reed, and you're going to be happy about it. And Jaden Reed's a good player. He's a very, very good player, very dynamic player. So I am much higher on him than consensus. The next player that I'm lower on than consensus is another wide receiver heading into his 3rd year, Chris Olave. ECR has Olave at 18. I have him at 35, a difference of 17 spots. I like the player. I really like Chris Olave. I think he's a fantastic wide receiver. But this is that classic situation in fantasy where you have a talented player in a mediocre to potentially bad offense that will limit the ceiling. Unfortunately, my guy, DJ Moore, had to suffer through that for years. It happens. You see these guys get over 1,000 yards, over 120 targets, push 100 receptions, have these good years, but then you look and you see tight end 25. I mean, wide receiver 25, wide receiver 30. It doesn't feel like they're that bad. And yet, again, we're going back to the well with Chris Olave, having to use a top 20 pick. Nope, I'm not willing to use a top 20 pick. I'm using, like I have him at 35. So I need a lot more off the board before I go to Chris Olave. Because betting on Chris Olave, to bet on Chris Olave is betting that he has his best year as a pro. And there's just not enough in the New Orleans offense. There weren't enough changes or improvements to guarantee that he's going to have his best year as a professional. He's never been a top 15 guy. And we're having to grab him as a wide receiver 12. Not if you use RX, you're not grabbing wide receiver 12 because it's just not going to give you that return on investment that we're looking for to be successful in our seasonal leagues. Last year, he had a 1.27 warp. That's good. Again, good, not great. 1,123, so 1,100 receiving yards. Good. 138 targets. Good. But all of those stats that are good only led him to be wide receiver 19 last year. So again, we're having to use the investment on a guy like Olave that suggests that all the ills he had been dealing with are gone. They're not. Those blemishes are still there in the situation. Again, I love Olave, but this is a seasonal show. In Dynasty, I'm not selling. I am nervous about his 24 production, but because of that, I'm not really into Chris Olave in seasonal formats. I don't know if I've seen enough in this offense, in this team, to suggest that this pick makes sense, that this situation is better. So even though I like Chris Olave, as a top 35 player, this isn't a complete fade Olave. It's just at given prices, I'm fading. But again, he's going to have to fall to get on my draft radar. And that sucks for a player like Olave, and he's rarely going to fall like this. I don't trust Olave until they buy a new car. Bam. I mean, it's 9:30 in the morning, folks, and Fizz is coming out with this type of heat. Shout out Fizz. That's why you're the guy. Massachusetts in the house. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Yep. DB, I agree. It's hard for me to click the most expensive option in a room like this. Now, this might be in regards to Jaden Reed. Let me know, DB. You talk about Jaden Reed. But again, he's not as expensive. I think he might be talking Olave too, because that's very expensive. Top 12 receiver, top 20 pick. Yeah, he's talking with Jaden Reed. So we do disagree. We'll talk off the show. The next player that I am higher on, or the last player that I'm going to talk about today that I'm higher on than consensus rankings. I mean, if I gave everyone in the chat 3 guesses, I'm pretty positive everyone here will get it right, because of course it's my guy, DJ Moore. The disrespect of DJ Moore eventually has to end. Eventually it does. Eventually people wear enough egg on their face that they can make a damn Southwestern omelet, and they'll finally realize that this guy's just good and should stop being treated like he's decent. ECR has him as a top 35 player at 34. I got him at 19. Okay, up 15 spots. He's coming off of his best year as a pro. 1,364 receiving yards, 16.9 fantasy points per game. He was wide receiver 6th overall. This is what I'm talking about, DB. This is why you're my guy, DB. I have to take a second because I just sometimes things happen. Seeing, my man DB have to give me shit earlier, saying he loves DJ Moore, just warms my heart. Just warms my heart, B. But last year, again, let's talk about DJ Moore. He has proven over and over and over again that he's an alpha in an offense. He has proven since his second year as a pro in Carolina that this guy's an alpha in an offense. And then last year, he just put the cherry on top. He had volume last year, 28.9% target share. He was 5th in yards per team pass attempt. Seems good to me. He was able to attack downfield. He was 5th in deep yard targets. Had a 38.9% air yard share, top 8 in the NFL. He's dynamic with the ball in his hands. He had 539 yards after catch. That was 8th and at 7th best juke rate. He's an overall dominator. He is a dominator of footballs. Pause. No, Diddy. I don't know what the expression is there. 1.57 warp. This is a 1.5 win over replacement player in our seasonal formats. He was the 7th best wide receiver in warp, 13th overall player last year. And now he's going to be playing with the most talented quarterback he's played with ever. And again, we're going to balk at DJ Moore. Yeah, I know Rome Odunze's sick. He's awesome. Keenan Allen's also great. But DJ Moore, they paid him $27.5 million because he's daddy. DJ Moore, Daddy Moore. They had to pay daddy. He's wide receiver 1 in this offense. Think of it like this. The first year, CD Lamb was drafted by the Cowboys. Everyone was fading Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper had more passing yards, had more receptions, more receiving yards, was a better fantasy player. It wasn't until year 2 that CD Lamb flip-flop roles. So if you are a believer in Rome Odunze, like I am. I love Rome Odunze. I think he's awesome, and he will be a very good player in this league as early as this year. But to think he's going to usurp DJ Moore in year 1 is just foolish. DJ Moore in year 1 is going to smash. And again, this is a seasonal show. We're talking about 2024. We can regroup in 25 when that happens. But as of right now, you're not getting DJ Moore at 34 if I'm there. I'm going to scoop it up. Now, I will say this. If you use the shit sheets, what you'll realize is there are a handful of players that you can pick a few rounds after there's when you look, where they're being listed based on like the ADP of the platform you're using. And DJ Moore's, I have DJ Moore everywhere. He's just always there. I got him yesterday in the fantasy draft we did with Beat South Harmon FF yesterday over at Full Time Fantasy. So I love him. I love DJ Moore, love him a lot. And this year it's just going to be another big year as long as he stays on the field. Another 1,200 yard season, double-digit touchdowns. It's all on the table with Caleb Williams. So I love DJ Moore. I'm definitely higher on him than consensus. Friends in chat. You trading DJ Moore for Trey McBride in a 2-point Yes, I am. I love DJ Moore. But you're talking 2-point TEP McBride. Put that in the warp, buddy. Friends, head over to South Harmon FF, sign up for the warp tool. We got 50% off for the whole year. Sign up for the whole year. You get 50% off, friends. And then go ahead, put your league in. This is a league-specific tool. It'll bring up the warp in that league. You'll see how crazy valuable a guy like Trey McBride is with 2-point TEP. So head over to SouthHarmonFF.com. Get that warp tool 50% off right now as our flash sale is on and popping. Joanna, heck yeah, friends. Yeah, everyone head over there. Head over to South Harmon FF, get that warp tool and check it out. But yeah, she's right. You got to make sure you trade DJ Moore for Trey McBride in that format. And you're killing me to say it. It kills me to absolutely say that. The last player that I'm going to talk about today is a player that I am lower on than consensus. It's James Cook. James Cook is being drafted is being ranked according to the expert consensus at 45. I am at 58. A little bit lower. Again, it's not a full fade for James Cook. It's just a temper expectations and kind of wait for James Cook if you're going to draft him. My concerns are primarily size related, to be honest. I've been fading Devon A-Chain because of the size and where he's being drafted, and it's kind of the same for James Cook. James Cook last year was good. Running back 12 overall, running back 19 points per game basis, 1,100 rushing yards, 44 receptions. He's good. But is he a guy that can shoulder the load that you need to be drafted where he's being drafted, to take him where he's being taken? Last year, he did have 237 carries, which were a bit higher than I would have guessed. But to repeat that at this size, for me, ends up being a bit of a concern, ends up being a bit of a worry for James Cook. And again, I don't hate James Cook. I'm only 13 picks lower, but it's worth bringing up. Let him, James. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Maddox, I see you in there. Joanna, I see you in there. Sorry, I have a couple names, Joanna, so I just put a little extra flavor. If that's not how you pronounce it, I am so sorry, Joanna. But Maddox, I see you in there. Friends, of course. DB, of course, is in there. Fizz is in there. Shout out to all you guys for hanging out on this Sunday morning. This is the best, and I cannot wait for the season to kick off. But let's get back to James Cook. James Cook last year, he wasn't all that evasive for a guy his size. 12th in true yards per carry, 23rd in evaded tackles, 49th in juke rate, 26th in breakaway run rate. And then they bring in a guy like Ray Davis. A big body, kind of plotter, guy that's going to be tough to tackle in the middle parts of the field. And the belief was they brought him in so that James Cook can be used over the course of the longevity of the season. And although that's great for the Buffalo Bills, and maybe that ends up being great for us playoff time, they kind of ramp him up. But in these seasonal formats, it's imperative to get off to good starts because, especially in our casual leagues, our home leagues, you'll see guys fade, right? You'll see guys stop checking as much or trying as hard as early as Halloween. And if you have a good record, well, then you could just continuously put yourself in the playoff picture, and then you'll be in the dance. You want to take home the prize. So we need early wins too. It's not all about late wins. And James Cook, for me, seems like a bit of a fade at current ranking. Again, it's not a lot. I still will have some James Cook if he falls in my seasonal formats because, he's been great with Joe Brady. Getting him the ball has been kind of a priority of his ever since he took over as offensive coordinator. But this year, with Curtis Samuel there, does he take away some of that gadget play? Khalil Shakur is now going to be in a bigger role. There's just a lot of question marks in terms of how this pass-catching hierarchy goes. And for James Cook, I'm not betting on the 230-plus carries. I'm not going to take that bet. So to be excited about James Cook, if I'm not going to take the 237 carries, is an increase in 44 receptions. I think he stays at it right around 40 receptions. So he's a good player. Probably a top 20, 22-ish, probably top. We'll call it top 24 running back. I think I say that very, very, very confidently. So I still like him, but I'm waiting till around pick 60 to get him instead of as early as pick 45. That's it. That's going to be the game plan today, folks. Big shout out to everybody in the chat. You guys are the best. 2 weeks from now, we will be in full force. And next week, I'll give you a little preview for everyone who stayed tapped in till the end. Next week, I'm talking about free agent priorities post fantasy draft. So there will be a lot of drafts happening next weekend. Once they complete, you got to hit those waiver wires. You got to get ahead and get some stashes. It's like, adding rounds to your fantasy draft, if you will. So I'll be talking about some of these players, some players to not forget about in drafts and picking up late. So come in next week, and then the week after that will be full on. Every single week, the game plan will be news and notes, chatting with the crowd, chatting with the community, getting everyone's rosters ready to rock for Sunday, and then we'll go bargain bin hunting. Great bargain bin hunting like we do every single week for the game plan. So get ready for that. It's going to be, oh my God, 3 a.m. in Hawaii. Oh, well, sorry. The hurricane. I hope everything's good. I hope everything's good. I'll be praying for you. Make sure the hurricane doesn't touch your stuff at all or any of your friends' stuff. But being up at 3:30, you are a dog for that. You are the man. Here we go. No, big shout out to everybody here. No, you guys are the best. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's awesome talking fantasy football, even at the early parts of the day here at 9:41 a.m. But I love y'all. Keep tapping in. Make sure that you come back next week so we can continue to game plan to dominate for that season of leagues. I'm Matty Kiwoom. Make sure follow me on X at Matty Kiwoom. Smash that subscribe button here at South Harmon FF on YouTube. Make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and ready. Get those shit sheets. Head over to southharmonff.com. We got a 50% flash sale. You got to get over there. Get all those tools. The Warp tool for the year, half off. You can get team reviews, half off. Shit sheets, 1QB, super flex, seasonal formats. You can get those over at South Harmon. So head over there now. And if you're over at Manscaped and you're getting yourself a little tool, nice little keep it right, keep it tight tool, use this promo code SHFF20. Get 20% off and free shipping. I'm Matty Kiwoom. Keep game planning, my friends, and I will see you next week. Peace.